Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome back to Army Analysis. Again, Tyranid, today, me and Arek here, we're doing troops.
Yep, straight on to the troops.
Again, I need to flick through to the right page.
And again, I'm on the right page already.
You're always a step ahead of me.
I'll jump straight in. Troops, obviously very important about any army. You need two, you have to have two.
So important.
Absolutely. I think the big thing with Tyranids is you need two, but I don't think you should ever just have two.
No, definitely not.
Even in your monstrous creature armies, I think you still need more. I've seen a lot of people who just put out the minimum units of Ripper Swarms and then monstrous creatures. That's fine, but most canny opponents will just kill those two troop choices. You haven't got any objectives you can capture, and then it just comes down to they have to survive. They don't have to beat you.
That's right, yeah. They can just pile themselves in one corner of the board, just put up a right big shooter line.
Absolutely, and it works well.
It can work well, yeah. But, yeah, like you say, very important in any army. The Warriors, though.
Warriors, they've always been a bit hit and miss for me because they've got that toughness which is quite easy to instant death. They've only got the 4-up save. If that was a 3-up, I think you'd be a lot better off. I think a lot of people would be willing to pay more points to get that 3-up, but there's no option. Most people will just throw a battle cannon on your head. So I think if you take a big group of 9, you have to really get the terrain to your advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, units of 3, because they're a bit of a waste of a battle cannon or equivalent in most occasions.
Anything that's going to cause enough devastation of 3 models is going to be a lot of points worth of shot.
It is, and they're cheap. That's worth noting, they are cheap. You get a good few of those for your money. And the options that they can take, the biocannons, can put out some good heavy firepower for the points cost. You can take down a couple of tanks with the venom cannon there. It's low strength, but it'll do the job where you need it to. And of course, if you want to just devour us.
Of course,
they put out enough shots. And they've got a good number of attacks, so you could just bang a second set of Scythe and Talons on there, and you can cause a lot of damage for your points. You've just got to get there.
And also, when you're investing I mean, these are cost. We say they don't cost a lot in terms of points, but that's in terms of how good they are compared to other models. They're pricey per model in the troop section. But that, for me, makes me think, let's put some of these upgrades on. Let's get them padded out. Let's make these things tougher.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, the weapons, yes. I think the 3 biomorphs you can take are all useless, if I'm honest. The toxin sacks, alright, maybe, but are they really going to want to take on anything that they need them for? And re-rolling your wounds on the low toughness, you've got enough attacks, you don't need it. And 3 points per model will start to rack up. Flesh hooks, again, it's a maybe. If your opponent's got a gun line, they're going to hide in cover. Then it's possibly worth thinking about if you know Tau, Necrons, Imperial Guards.
I think it depends who you're fighting is the most important thing.
It does. If you don't know who you're fighting, it's probably not worth the point. You could get yourself another few termagants for that.
I think for me, the most important thing about this Tyranid Warriors here, synapse.
Yes, they can buff that out.
There is a moderate lack of synapse in the army. You can. It depends what you want to take.
Yes.
If you take models you just fancy taking, you can look at it and go, oh, I haven't got much synapse.
Yeah, very easy to do.
And this is a very easy way to sort that out.
It is. And for that, if that's what you want them for, they're great. You can get them a cover save from standing behind your smaller creatures, which is good. It cancels out some of that easy to kill that they've got. And yeah, they'll give you a good synapse range, so they're worth having. They are a bit outshone by Raveners, in my opinion, if you want a combat unit. And they're not quite as shooty as some of the other stuff. But if you want a balanced unit, then maybe they're worth looking at.
And again, they're a unit that can take objectives.
Yes, that's also quite important. Synapse unit that can take objectives, so you can get the support to them without having to reallocate a synapse creature.
And also, if you've got an objective right at the back of the board, and with Tyranids, you're more than likely going to be all just charging hell out forward.
Yeah.
If you're going out forward and you want to keep that objective, you need something that is a scoring unit and is synapse, so it doesn't run off.
Yeah, and of course then they're not useless. They can sit there with one of the big bio cannons, your Barbed Strangler, your Venom Cannon, and they can still take part in the fight, and they'll defend themselves when he gets close. Yeah. So that's always good to have. Okay,
well, let's move on to Gene Stealers then. I've never used Gene Stealers. I've looked at them and I just went past them. Purely for I don't like the model.
The model is, I really like it actually, I'm not going to lie. It's a really nice model. Some of the first models I ever had was Gene Stealers. So I do like the model, and I like the unit. They're a little bit hampered by their lack of save, but they're Tyranids, so you've got to come to expect that. Use your cover. I'll keep saying this all the way through the codex. Use your cover, hide behind termagants, and make sure you get them there. I think actually the biggest buff to Gene Stealers came not necessarily with this codex, and it's not really in their entry. It's the Rending Claws that are now AP 5.
Oh, right.
Which means your Guardsmen, some of your Eldar, with the exception of the new Eldar Codex there, enemy Gaunts, enemy Gene Stealers, no save.
Yeah.
And obviously in your old rules, there was a chance they would survive. So that is quite a difference, and obviously you got your AP2 attacks if you roll well. Good Shock Troop. The Broodlord's a bit overpriced in my opinion.
Yeah, it is quite expensive overall.
But it'll do the job. You know, if you want a character killer delivery system, they can infiltrate, so you can get them forward, get that early character quite early on. His psychic power, quite useful to have. So yeah, they can do the job, but you don't want to go. You can fill a lot of points into them very quickly.
I think infiltrate with Tyranids is always something handy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you want to get as many units across the board as you can, as quickly as you can.
Okay, well, next we've got the two Gaunts. We've got Termagants and Hominins. I personally have gone for a shed load of Hominins, and that's purely because of the style of the army I've chosen.
Yep.
I've chosen a close combat army, so that makes a natural choice for me. It was an easy decision. Somebody else we know has gone for a lot of Termagants, haven't they?
That's right, yeah, it's the exact opposite of the army you've got there. But that comes down to this Scuttling Swarm rule, where you can get your Tervagon in as a troops choice. It is limited now to Broods of Thor 30, which is a change from the previous, but they're cheap enough that you can do it. They have had a points drop. They're down 1 point from before, so that's always good. They're not bad for what they do. You know, you don't expect them to hold up in a fight, but they can sway it with numbers.
Yeah.
I have seen them drown Terminators before. If you get enough of them,
You need a lot.
you do need a lot of them, but it
At that
it
points
works.
price,
You can have a lot, and of course your Tervagon can keep throwing them out. They'll all get counter-attack from it, which is great, so you get your +1 attack. As I said in the previous video, if you'd seen it, and if you didn't, go back and watch it now, with counter-attack, they are actually more effective than Hormigants when receiving a charge.
yes, that's
So if
true.
you know you're going to be playing defensively against an enemy army, or if you want to sit on an objective,
Yeah.
you can sit there, you can snap fire, and that's the difference, is that snap fire, you get the extra shot. Not a lot, you probably won't do much damage, but it's that chance of doing more damage.
It is better on the Hormigant side thing. If you've got Hormigants and you're sitting back, you've either got one of two things. Either you have got... It's all gone wrong, and you need to hold an objective, and the only thing you've got there is Hormigants. And the other thing is that you just haven't got anything else. So, yeah, definitely Termagants are good. Not for me and my army, but I like them.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be very careful as well about the upgrades. Spine Fists, alright if you want them. Spike Rifle, yeah, you get the range again if you're going to sit back. It's worth having. Devourers, just shut up with those. 4 points. It's not happening.
No, I mean, it's the same. It's so expensive to upgrade these models. I think the best thing about the Termagants is they're so cheap.
Yes,
And
you
then-
can just swarm the board with hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Literally hundreds of
And
them.
the only one bad thing about that is you've got to paint them.
Yeah, which is awful. Pick a paint scheme that you like early on, because when you've painted your first 50, you won't want to change it.
No, you won't.
And the same goes for Hormigants there. I mean, almost as cheap.
Almost.
The real difference here is the speed. They can get across the board a lot faster. They've got fleet. They've got bounding leap. You can look at a turn 2 combat without fail.
Yeah.
And for just 1 point more.
1 point. That's all now.
Yeah.
I think they got a reduction in this codex.
They did. They also got a 1 point reduction. Unfortunately, the Silent Talons no longer give them the rerolls to their ones, which
was really quite good for me. I mean, the
It
Silent
was.
Talons. I had quite a lot of Silent Talons in the army before they changed the codex, and some of them had 2 sets.
Yes,
and that was a very vital thing in some of the tactics I was using, because I know that if I went in there, I would get nearly all of my attacks to hit.
Yeah, you could really rely on that sort of thing.
But I can't rely on that anymore.
The points reduction now, I won't bore you with the maths, but they are actually better now, because you do get that extra Hormigant in for the same number of points. They are better, assuming you charge. If you don't charge, I believe you were better off in the old rules. Same goes again here, Adrenal Glands and Toxin Sacs. If you've got points spare,
Maybe.
I can think of better stuff to spend it on, but maybe, I don't know, if you were fighting Space Marines, for example, I could see Adrenal Glands maybe being
I
useful
would
there.
say keep your cheap troops cheap.
Yeah.
Don't spend on them, because that's why they are cheap, to have lots of them at low points.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that a lot in here. The upgrades are not worth having. Spend your points elsewhere. And that's one of those locations. If you think you've got 20 points spare to spend on Hormigants, you haven't. you've actually got 20 points spare to upgrade your Khan effects more, and that's where you really need to allocate the points well.
Or more Hormigans.
Or more, yeah, more is always better.
If you think about it, I mean, look at all the different points here. If you took both of those upgrades, that's the same cost as an actual Hormigan.
Yeah, you double the cost without doubling the combat effectiveness.
So you could either have, I don't know, 50 Hormigans with all the with the 2 upgrades, or 100 Hormigans. And I think I'd know which one I'd like.
I think every Tyranid player knows which one they would like there.
Except for the fact I'd have to paint them all.
Yeah.
And the Ripper Swarm, I've got some, I've bought some, but I haven't got round to looking at the rules yet.
Do you know what? I love Ripper Swarms. I think they exemplify a lot of the Tyranid background for me. On the table, they are relatively poor. They're cheap, don't get me wrong. They're very cheap for what they do. They will tie up squads like if you see Terminators who haven't got the Thunderhammer or Power Fist, you know, Lightning Claw Terminators, point and laugh and just throw Rippers at them because they'll take a good while to chew through them. The same with anything with low attacks and it doesn't have Strength 6 because that's where your instant death comes in. Just feed it Rippers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Spine Fists could actually work 4 shots. It's not bad.
Would you purchase the Deep Strike special rule for them?
I wouldn't. I would choose the Sky Slashers. When we get to fast attack, you'll see that the Sky Slashers come with Deep Strike because the points difference isn't that much. And by the time you pay 2 points per base, you're better off just getting the Sky Slashers. You know.
Fair enough.
But Fearless is always useful to have. They don't need you don't need sign-ups necessarily to. Once you've got them in combat, you haven't got to worry about them.
That's right.
Just throw them up at something that you know they can hold up all game. And again, troops, so they can quite comfortably, you know, they can hold an objective. They're only infantry. They're not beasts, which is odd because a lot of the other swarms are. Yeah. So they're not quite as fast as some of the other ones. But bang on an objective.
Hang on a second. We've talked about this in a game before. They're a swarm.
Of course, yeah. Ignore all of what I just said.
Forget it.
They can't capture an objective.
Be careful with that. We've fallen into that trap before.
Yes, we have.
It's in your
Scarabs,
it's in your main rulebook. Scarabs was another one, wasn't it?
Yes,
from the Necron army, and these are swarms as well.
Yes, so there's no capturing.
No capturing objectives.
So ignore that.
Don't try and do it. If you do it, your opponent will just laugh at you, unless they don't know. In which case,
that's what happened with us. We didn't realise until after the game when we were adding up points, and that's an embarrassing situation nobody wants.
Yeah, because it turned out, was it supposed to be a draw, and then we realised I'd won.
It was, yeah. It was two separate units. It was Death Company and it was a swarm, a Scarab swarm, and it went from being a 6-all draw down to a 6-0 victory, I believe.
Or something like that. Yeah. It was crazy, and I felt really bad for winning that. I think that's the worst. I'm okay. I play to win, and I think everybody should. But I felt terrible for winning that one. I felt like I didn't earn it. But we didn't realise.
No, it happens.
Important thing to remember.
Before we finish up, I would like to just mention as well about the Tervigon. It's not in here. We did cover it in HQ. I would say if you get it in troops, be very careful again about how much you spend on it. When it's HQ, you need to keep it alive. You need to protect it, especially if it's a warlord. If you've got it as a troop, probably just take it stock. Crushing Claws is a maybe, but it's there to spawn termagants, really, if you've got it as a troop.
That's the main reason, isn't it?
Hide it behind a screen, try and give it a cover save where you can, and just don't spend a lot of points on it. And capture lots of objectives.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this episode again. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Any comments, questions, etc., put them in the comments. We'll probably collect them together, and at the end of the codex, we'll come back to them in a later episode. Yep. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.